Our session chairman, Mr. Mishra, to please wrap up the session.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and the beautiful students, management students sitting in the gallery. It is an honor and privilege as Chief General Manager of State Bank of India Bhopal Circle and a Director of Indore Management Association to summarize the entertaining discussions which just took place. The theme of this conclave is this session was India the Strength, and the theme of the conclave is Hope to Triumph, Leading in Turbulent Times. Now, the catalyst to convert hope to triumph is the leader, and both these gentlemen sitting, the panelists, have exhibited throughout the career as to how they have acted as leaders and performed their role. One traveling the journey from Indore, Dr. Jain, traveling from Indore to Wharton and being a very successful professor, and Mr. Dabrol, a very entertaining and enterprising advertising man, an actor, a TV host, and maybe a director also. Dr. Jain, he talked about the vast oceans of inequality while India stands on the cusp of growth, and education has a pivotal role to play. So the underprivileged also have to be given this kind of education so that the Indian economy can emerge. Sonal Dabral, he started with Kora Kagaj Tha Ye Man Mera, very, very entertaining, very, very innovative, and he took us through so many of his campaigns, like the Bini Bini Chips campaign, the Fauji campaign, the Monte Carlo campaign, and the Cadbury campaign which said Asli Swad Zindagi Ki. And he also stressed on the point that we should never give up. 2-3 points which I'll touch upon quickly. Ideas are fragile, the Fevicol ad, and have to be nurtured or they could break. Don't get too comfortable with your job. Keep the window of your mind open all the time, and should be like a sponge to absorb, and it always works when it is from the heart. And of course, his last point, that we should be like a coffee bean. To conclude and to summarize, as I look at the present turbulent times in India, both from the economic point of view as well as the political point of view, I see three kindly lights leading us out of this difficult times, the gloom. The first is our vibrant democracy. It is a cliche that India is a country of diversities, but this cliche distinguishes us from almost all other countries that we keep comparing ourselves with, like China. The only reason why we continue to survive in our unity, despite our diversities, is our democracy. This democracy does slow us down. It even stalls us, like the parliament. At times, it makes us regress. But how else can we expect a democratic system to function in a country that has Antilla and Dharavi within jogging distance of each other, and where millions of users have mobile phones but cannot even sign their the name? It is democracies that allows the migrant of Dharavi or the illiterate youth of Kalahandi to feel that he too is a part of the country. And it's a democracy that ensures that once a policy is adopted, it stays. We may fret at the opportunities that we miss, but in a widely diverse country, consensus cannot be determined and stability ensured by the educated and well-to-do alone. The uneducated and the illiterate, just like Mr. Narayan Murthy and Dr. Jain have mentioned, must also be heard and given due respect. That's why I consider our Indian brand of democracy our prime strength. Another bright light, the second one leading us on, is the enterprise displayed by people sitting in this room. In this respect too, we are a remarkable country. The spirit of India of enterprise in India knows no poverty line. The whole world knows of the Tatas or the Murtis. There is a galaxy of impressive entrepreneurs sitting here itself. But equally impressive is what is being achieved by innovating Indians through the length and breadth of the country. I come from Bihar. Some years ago when I was posted at Delhi, I read in a magazine about Lal Muli Devi of Vaishali near Patna. This illiterate wife of a marginal farmer learned how to grow mushrooms from an agriculture extension officer and began not only growing mushrooms, but also selling them in Hajipur, a town near her village. Her successful enterprise inspired her neighbors to do likewise, and now if you visit Patna, you will see mushrooms from Vaishali being sold all over the city. With such grassroots inventiveness, such enterprise, how long can the gloom last? The third light which I see is the demographic dividend that India enjoys and which all the speakers have mentioned. And this demographic dividend we are likely to enjoy in the decades to come. What was being derided as population explosion in the 1970s is now being seen as one of India's biggest strengths today in the form of vibrant workers and consumers. I am aware that this cannot be taken for granted. If our youth is not skilled and educated, our large young population could well become a bane. We can no more look to government alone to shoulder the responsibility of educating our youth or giving them the skills necessary for productive employment. Government has its role, but the private sector now has a major role to play in this field. And this has begun. Indore is a very good example of a city ensuring that India's population remains a boon for our economic growth. And with the coming of TCS and maybe Infosys in the near future, I'm sure the growth story will continue. To conclude, Mark Tully, as you know, the BBC correspondent, has written 2 books on India. The first one, written 2 decades ago, was titled No Full Stops India. 2 decades later, recently, he's written a book called Non-Stop India, wherein he concludes by saying that there are no full stops in India, only maybe commas in its growth. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for your patient listening.